In this video, we will talk about animating exit and entrance of any component. As you might be knowing that in React, they don't support unmounting or keeping track of unmounted component, and for that reason, I mean, entrance animation is pretty straightforward, I will say, but exit animation gets a little tricky, and that's what I'll be showing here. Like, there are a lot of ways you can use transition, and I mean the transition component or CSS transition, which comes out of the box. Not out of the box, you have to install the packages and use it. You can make use of those, or you can just create a simple framer motion is a very popular library for animating presence and everything, so you can use that also. Here I will show you just normal using vanilla, not JavaScript, but vanilla React and CSS, how you can make it. So let's get started. Okay, so the components that you see here, I have just added a couple of lines of CSS for all of these, and this is how it looks. So we have animation card, which is a div, and then we have two buttons. One is to animate exit and another one is to animate entry. Okay, and on click of any of these, like animate entrance makes entrance true, and animate exit makes exit true. Okay, and you can see that if it is entrance, the entrance class, which is card entrance, is applied, otherwise card exit. Coming to the CSS, we have card entrance. This is the animation that this is like additional stylings just to make it look fine and all that. But I have card entrance and card exit. So for entrance we are using fly in, for exit we are using fly out. So what happens is, when the component is going to unmount, this fly out animation would be triggered, which will basically unmount it, and for entrance we will use fly in animation. So basically this is I would say concept to make use of these things to animate the component. And here is, we are actually not unmounting the component. If you see carefully, the component remains always in the DOM. This div remains always in the DOM, but the classes change, and based on that we create this entry or exit effect. Okay, so if you are looking for something that removes the component as well, then this may not be the right way for those kind of use cases. However, what I will say is, you can always have a higher order component. Let's say if this component also gets disappeared, then you can wrap it above another higher order component, another div, and you can apply this transition effect to this div, since this is going to disappear, so the animation won't fit in. Now this you can render conditionally based on whatever condition, let's say show and whatever you want to render, and then it will render conditionally. So this is the way if you want to add effect on an unmounted component. Anyways, so let's get back. Now we have these animations. Now let's quickly write animations. I hope you're familiar with CSS animations. You need to name the animation, and then you can add keyframes. So I want 0% when fly in, meaning when it is 0%. I want to use translate property, translate x 0, no changes in x, we want to only move into the vertical direction, and y should be -100%. Okay, now note that this is a new property, translate. Earlier it used to be like this, so you had to use transform and then translate y and then -100%. Okay, these two are almost similar only, but this gives you more flexibility to control animations and other things, because let's say I want to add rotation also, then I'll have to specify all those properties, rotate and everything here, which can, as it goes, it will start becoming more and more complicated. And in this one it is pretty clear. Now rotate, I can add similar to this, I can add a rotate property here as itself. Okay, so for that reason this is very useful. Now let's go and add 100%, and in 100% again I want to not transform, translate, bring it back to its original position. Okay, so these are the two properties that are needed. And now let's have this fly out, and in fly out we want to move it out, so we will start with 0%, 0 and make it -100. And since we want to make it disappear, so there is this thing called opacity, which we want to make it to 0. Okay, so these are the two properties that we will be using. And now if I go back to pages class, yeah, I think rest all is looking good. So let me go back, refresh the page in case if it has not. Now you can see that there was an entrance animation again, if you see that we are using forwards, animation type is forwards. If you are not sure, we can always, you can always see, you can go to refer. This is all the things that animation offers. So we are using fill mode as forwards, meaning that end the animation with the last keyframe properties. Okay, you can see, wait, okay, let me quickly search for this animation css. You can use w3 schools, you can go for mdn docs. Here you will find all the details and everything. What does forward means, uh, what does forward means, what does reverse mean, and all these things. Okay, so anyways, coming back, here we have fly in, fly out. So since we are setting forward, so the final property, that whatever it is there, that would be taken as default one. Okay, so now let's go back. So entrance, we already saw, it comes like this, and exit, it flies out. Okay, if I again show you, fly out, fly in, fly out. Okay, now what we want is, we want to, you know create a utility component. Let's name it as animation container dot, and now inside of this I can use index.tsx, and here we can create, animation utility component, basically, dot module dot css. And if the user does not provide the exit and entry class, then we will provide it by ourselves. Okay, a default class, basically. So animation container equal to, and we want to return, we don't need return keyword actually. We need a section which will be basically mounting the animation, and then we will have the class name. And let's first define the props that we will need. So interface I animation props, we will definitely need to see, if we want to show the animation, we will need the component that we want to render. So JSX element, or it could be array of JSX element also, not a problem. And then we want to have entry class. So the styles, because everyone will have different kind of entrance animation, and we don't want to restrict those animations, so we let users give it. If they don't give, that is why I put question mark, meaning this is an optional property. So if the user doesn't give the entry class, then we will use by default. Okay, and similar for exit class. Okay, so this is all TypeScript stuff. In case if you are using JavaScript, don't get confused, you don't need to write this whole thing at all. You just need to go here and destructure these properties, which is show component, entry class, and exit class. Okay, and again, since I'm using TypeScript, so I'll just add iAnimation props, which will help me decide what is the type. Okay, now if it is show, then I will use I'm using conditional rendering. If it is show, I will check if entry class exists. If it does not exist, then I will use a class that I will be importing. Import classes from animation module dot css. Okay, and I will use class dot entry. Otherwise I'll use exit class, and if that doesn't exist, then I will use classes dot exit. Okay, and now I need to create these two classes in my file. So these would be the default entry and exit classes. Okay, so I think default animation, whatever we created in these keyframes, these could be taken. So let's go back and let's put it here. And again, animation is fly in, ease in. Before ease in, I think I need to put timer, ease in, and we want to keep the latest properties of forwards. Similarly here we want fly out, and let's keep it as ease out. Once again, forwards. Of course, these properties also would be customizable only, because if the user is providing entrance and exit classes, then these classes won't be there. Okay, so only if the entry class is undefined, where user says, okay, I don't want to provide, use the default ones. In those cases we would be using our default classes, otherwise we will use users class. Okay, so I hope this is clear. Now inside of this section we want to add our component. Okay, and now we just want to export default animate container. That's all. This is the utility component, and let's see what we can do it what we can do with this. So let's go here, let's create this animate container. Let's supply show equal to is entrance. Basically this is if it is entrance, then we want to show it, otherwise we won't. And then we add this component. So this is how it will work. And note that now I am not supplying any default properties, so it will take the default animation. So if we go back and click on animate entrance, you will see that both of these are similar. And why do we see, okay, we see two animations because here we don't need this class anymore. Instead let's use class which is just for styling, and I think it is called classes.animation. Let's see. Yeah, so this is the styling that we need, so I'm just putting classes.animation. So if I do animate exit, and now you will see that both of these are in the similar lines. The first animation is little bit faster, and because the reason for that may be, if we go to page 1, fly in is in, okay, because these are 0.25 seconds. So let's go back and let's make these two also 0.25 seconds, and now they should be identical ideally. Yep, you can see that they are identical. But let's say if I want to reuse this component somewhere else with some new animation styles, so in that case I can, let's say I want to have a different entry class. So let's have an entry class. So you can see I have added this fade in, fly out, fly in. Now let's have a fade in animation. So for fade in we don't need to do anything, we just need to change opacity. So opacity in fade in initially will be 0, and then as it reaches 100%, opacity will turn 1. Okay, opacity will turn 1, and let's name it as fade in. Okay, and let's name it as entrance, which is a new animation. Animation will be fade in 0. Yeah, rest all things will remain same. Now classes dot entrance, if I save it, go back, refresh the page, so you will see that now these two have different animations. This one is getting a little bit what do you say, hidden because of the card entrance animation. So let's make it as a little bit more, let's keep it as 1 second, and now let's see what happens. So you can see that this one is coming as fade in animation, while this one is again the fly in only. So this is how you can create a utility component. You can animate, similarly you can animate exit also. So let's have one more component similar to this. Let's name it as fade out. Again opacity 1 and then 0, it will go 1 to 0. So we'll have opacity 1 0, and then what we will do is we will just, so now we want to specify fade out, and then we will add a exit animation fade out, 1 second, ease out, forwards again. And if we just go here, I think we have already specified the class here, so we can save it and click on animate entrance. So this one comes fade in and it fades out. Okay, so this is how you can customize these properties, play around and create your custom animations. I hope this was useful and you got to learn something new. That's all for this video, and thank you very much.